We have big news. We have exciting news for you. Tell them what it is, Serena.
We are super excited to announce that we are starting our first membership this January 2024.
Yay! Membership.
So we're excited to let you know that we will be hosting a monthly membership where when you join, you will be
With us live in a Zoom room once a month for a workshop like we just hosted. It's going to be a workshop like that, one topic each month, a different topic. You might even help us come up with the following month's topic from inside our membership. Super excited to meet you. It was so fun meeting a few of you in our inaugural workshop. So we're really looking forward to that.
And when you are a member, you will also be receiving a monthly newsletter where I'm going to be a little more intimate and I'll be sharing the things that are working and the things that aren't working for me.
Yeah, like taking a tool that you've learned from the podcast and how you're implementing it and how well that worked, or maybe if it didn't work. And then Amma can put in my 2 bits worth. We'll see how that goes. But a membership newsletter and a membership live Zoom room workshop starting in January 2024. Can sign up through our Patreon link in the show notes. Yeah.
Yes, everything will be in the show notes, and we can't wait to see you there, listeners.
We can't wait. Yay. Going to a garden shop and picking the flowers that you want to plant with your kids or with your grandchildren, so good. So good. And I mean, some of the plants they have are already blooming, so you can see what the flower that they're going to look like, or they'll have the picture on the little tag that's with the plant. And yeah, just dig that hole and stuff that plant that's already growing in there and watch it do its thing. It's really great.
Hi, my name is Serena. I am a mother to a toddler and currently pregnant.
And hi, I'm Lisa, also known as the Singing Amma. Amma means grandmother in Icelandic. I am a mama and an Amma.
At the beginning of my first pregnancy, I felt like I was lacking my village, which is why we are here creating a village with you, in hopes that you won't feel as isolated as I did.
I also felt the lack of a village in my early parenting years way back when. And I come to our village with a background in early childhood education. I have been coaching parents along their parenting journeys and supporting them for over 35 years.
Lisa and I invite you to grab your latte
Or your tea
and come sit around the proverbial fire with us each week.
when we come together to have a conversation where we'll be talking all things parenting, keeping it real, keeping it raw, right here with you. Hello, it's Amma Lisa, the Singing Amma, here to read to you another of my Fishbowl magazine columns. Originally published on Salt Spring Island, British Columbia, Canada. Today's column I will read to you is all about growing vegetables and growing children. And what do they have in common? And after I'm done reading, as usual, our lovely Mama Serena will join us and we'll get deeper into the dirt. Spring is gardening time. Yay! Being out of doors is so healthful for the whole family. Keeping young ones busy for hours with simple tasks like filling buckets with dirt and moving it to another location, digging holes, filling them in again, or adding water to a corner of dirt and just digging it. That'll keep them busy. And while the kids are busy, happily playing in the dirt, let's take a look at growing things. When we are growing plants, we take time to learn about the particular needs of each variety of plant. We read directions. We might Google search. We ask the garden shopkeeper for advice. Does this plant prefer sun or partial shade? Does it like to be surrounded by other plants, particular companions, or does it prefer a more solitary aspect? Will this plant require watering, or does it like drier conditions? If our plants do not flourish, we read up on them again. We ask for advice. We try to sort out what each individual plant requires to thrive. Yeah, simple enough. Now, what about the growing of our children? Parenting and caring for our young, in my humble opinion, is the most important job we will ever do. We are raising the adults of tomorrow's world. And children do not come with a how-to manual, no directions for care, no instruction booklet. There is no shopkeeper to ask for advice. When our children do not flourish physically, we think, what does this child need? Do they need more fresh fruits or vegetables? More protein? More fresh air, sunshine, exercise? Is the child getting adequate sleep? We try to sort out what each individual child requires to thrive. However, when children fail to flourish emotionally or socially, we are quick to label them bad, naughty, misbehaving, acting out. What if these undesirable behaviors are actually a matter of this child's emotional needs not being met? Behind all acting out is an emotion that is struggling to be expressed. Take a closer look at the child who is not thriving emotionally and ask, what does this child need? How can I find ways to help this child feel safe, secure, confident, and loved? Food for thought while tending to the care of your plants and children. May your garden thrive with vibrant and joyful growth. All right, it is springtime and it is time to get in the garden, get our hands dirty. Serena and I just talked recently about how cool it is to garden with our children. Even if you live in an apartment building, if you have a balcony or even a sunny window, you can do some gardening with your children. So, no excuses. So yeah, this that column obviously has two different topics really. One of them is the actual gardening, and the other one is more about raising our children and looking at that. So let's talk about looking at their growth and their development. So let's talk about gardening with children first, and then we'll dive into the piece about the emotional development of our children.
I think gardening, which is obviously something we don't all know, I think it's really fun to learn because even as an adult, we go to the garden and when I see tomatoes growing and everything, it's incredible to me. I guess because
Mhm.
I grew up in not the city, but a little bit outside of the city. So it's not really,
It's urban, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So seeing things grow and you just buy everything in the grocery store. So you kind of
Mhm.
disassociate how it's really coming about.
Yeah, there's a fellow in the States. I think it's Richard Louvre. there's people in the States and in Canada who are, and I'm sure in Europe, all around the world, sorry, but there are people who are studying how children who grow up in urban centers, how disassociated they are from nature, but also this person did this work about, like, where do your French fries from McDonald's? Where do French fries come from? The children, even teenagers, older kids, they had no idea that, number one, French fries are potatoes and that potatoes grow under the ground. And it's incredible. Like, again, we've other episodes about how when we learn about the nature around us and where it comes from, we learn to respect nature more. We learn to respect that way to throw out food because it's growing plants that are giving of themselves to nourish us. It's just multi-layered.
And the patience that also that it takes.
And like we've said in other episodes, you're learning to be a better parent, learning to parent in new ways. It's not going to happen overnight. All learning, all growth takes time. So I jotted down, or I have a few ideas in my head about what are some of the vegetables and fruits that we can grow with our children, even if you're growing in pots on your porch. And if you're not a gardener, or on your balcony, if you're not a gardener, there's tons of information out there. Obviously, you can look it up online. Number one, you can go to a garden shop. You can ask a friend who's a gardener, what can I grow in a pot on my porch, on my balcony? How big a pot do I need? You're going to need a different size pot for growing. Carrots are really good to grow with little children because they grow relatively quickly. And it's so fun to get a toddler or a young child to pull that carrot out of the ground when it's ready. And there's ways of knowing when it's ready. And you might try pulling them out after they've been growing for 1 month and 2 months and 3 months and look at the difference, right? If you've planted a number of seeds. And so carrots are really good. It's so exciting to pull them out and go, oh, there it is, and then you can just either wash or even wipe that dirt off and eat it. Try it. Um, a few other good things to grow with children. Radishes grow really quickly. They are a bit peppery, so, kind of more flavorful. So some children will not like the taste. Oh, and then potatoes, they take a lot longer to grow and mature. And of course, you can't eat them straight out of the ground. But how great to grow the potato, wash it off, chop it up with the child, right? And then make boiled potatoes or mashed potatoes, something super easy for the kids to do. And there they are, learning from planting the seed to cooking the food, right? So cool. And then some other above ground plants that are really fun that mature fairly quickly and that children generally like to eat are peas in the pod. Really fun. You can either get the sugar snaps, which you can eat the whole pod, or you get the peas that get big inside the pod and then you open the pod and you eat the little peas out. They're super fun. You need a tall area to grow them in, or, get them, tie them up around the balcony railing could work. And beans, green beans or yellow beans, are going to be similar to peas in that way. And like you mentioned, tomatoes, they're a really yummy one to grow. And again, they will take longer. They generally, in the Northern Hemisphere, they're going to be planted in late spring, but they're not going to mature and get red and ripe until end of summer into the fall, even depending on how warm it is where you are. And another really fun plant to grow that has edible fruit or berries is the strawberry. And
Yes.
they make really good patio potted plant
Mm-hmm.
gardens too. So fun.
Yeah, I did strawberries last year. That was really fun. And it was like a science project to be growing the strawberries and then being able to eat them. And they're so red and it was delicious.
So fun and so
Also,
yummy.
herbs, some herbs, right? I know
Hmm.
mint is really easy. That just grows in my mother-in-law's backyard. And
Yes. Now, mint, if you have a small backyard, you want to make sure, and if you're growing any other garden things, some things like mint, you want to actually make sure they have their own corner because they will spread. The mint will spread like crazy.
mm-hmm.
But yes, grow mint, either peppermint or spearmint are really good varieties to grow. And then you pick a few leaves from the mint or the tops off them, and you boil some water and you make some delicious mint tea. Such
Yeah.
a great thing. Lemon balm, it will also take over your entire yard if you're not careful, but it's really good because it's a calming herb and it looks a bit like mint.
And it's really just amazing to see stuff grow. And like when you plant a seed and the first little sprout that it makes.
Yes. And if you have little ones like I do in my life who adore flowers, plant some bulbs. The thing about bulbs that's fun, like snowdrops, crocuses, daffodils, all those early spring flowers from the area where we live in. I think you have the same kinds of things where you live, although they're different areas. They're not south or way in the north, you know. Well, way in the north, I mean Canada or Alaska. um, anyway, they're really fun because you plant those bulbs in the fall and then they poke up in the late winter, early spring, depending where you live. And then they bloom, and they're some of the earliest flowers blooming. So they can be super fun also to plant. And flowers can bring such joy too. So I love planting flowers.
Yeah, even just gardening and getting outside and touching the sun. It's a mood boosting whenever you do it, especially if
Mm-hmm.
you're doing it with your kids or your kids are doing it with you. You're just spending quality time with a loved one. I know my grandma used to
Yes.
get flowers in the spring and would plant them in the front, and I would help her dig the holes, and she would just put the flowers in. She wasn't growing it from a seed, but we would
Yes.
dig up the dirt together, and that was always fun.
Going to a garden shop and picking the flowers that you want to plant with your kids or with your grandchildren, so good. So good. And I mean, some of the plants they have are already blooming, so you can see what the flower that they're going to look like, or they'll have the picture on the little tag that's with the plant. And yeah, just dig that hole and stuff that plant that's already growing in there and watch it do its thing. It's really great. And if you're lucky enough to have a yard, plant some of the plants that will come up each year. You know, there's annuals and there's perennials, and the perennials are the ones that will come up each year. So that's really a nice thing too. And then planting a few that you have to plant every year, that's always fun.
But it also teaches you a lot about parenting as well.
That's
Sometimes,
right.
if a plant isn't thriving, either it's the soil or the sunlight or something about its environment that's affecting it, right?
Mm-hmm,
Like our
mm-hmm.
kids. And sometimes we think our kids are just a little version of us and that they're supposed to be like us or think like us or behave or act or feel like we do. And no, everybody's their own person. Maybe you're
And
Mhm.
they're learning. Like we sometimes treat kids like they're mini adults, except
Yeah.
we're tougher on them because they're not mini adults. They're stumbling and fumbling and learning like crazy how to regulate their emotions, right? Like I said in the column, when our children aren't thriving physically, we don't have any problem taking them into the doctor or looking something up online or asking, somebody who might know more than us about a certain element. If they're not sleeping well, if they're looking pale, or if they're lethargic and they don't have enough energy that a young child should have, we in the minute will start looking for what we can do to help our child thrive physically. And that's then the emotional thriving that I really wanted to focus on with this particular column. Like, why are we so quick to get angry at our children when they are, acting out? Why are we so quick to, maybe some parents call their children names or tell them they're lazy or tell them they're being stupid even. I mean, parents will say the darndest things to their children when in fact it's just the children aren't thriving emotionally. They're not in a good emotional state. And how about if we just look, what does this child need? What's missing?
And some maybe you as a kid you were hit, which we never recommend, but maybe you think that you learned a lot of what you know because you were punished and you were disciplined for that. But that doesn't mean that
Mm-hmm.
your kid, and especially during this time and knowing what we know now, you don't hit your kids. And that's not the way to do it. And it can affect them negatively. And it maybe you think you learned what you learned by because that's how you were disciplined, but that doesn't mean your kid's gonna learn that way. And you
Mm-hmm.
yelling at them or punishing them and hitting them is it's gonna have the opposite effect of what you want, what you think
Mm-hmm.
is gonna happen.
Yes, it will have the opposite effect. We do learn from all kinds of reactions that our parents give us. We don't always learn what the parent is hoping that we're going to learn. When we hit a child learns to bottle up their feelings. If a child is told, don't cry, you're not hurting, don't cry, they learn to bottle up their feelings.
Mhm.
And what we're talking about on our podcast over and over again is giving our children an emotional vocabulary, giving our children the right to feel all their feelings, and then helping them learn ways to adjust their behavior. And part of that is acknowledging the feelings that a child might be having.
Yeah, and anxiety, I feel like is something that's on the rise right now. And it's
Totally.
yeah, learning about how to control and understand our own emotions and
Mm-hmm.
teaching our kids that
Mm-hmm.
I think is very important, and maybe what causes anxiety is them not understanding or being able to interpret it, what they're feeling.
It's so good to bring that up, Serena. Thank you. It's my personal belief is that the rise in anxiety as a whole over our society of the Western world, I think it's a cumulative effect from a few generations of blocking emotions.
Yeah.
And with every generation that doesn't heal ourselves and what we learned that was not great to learn, like it's not okay to cry, that old thing that boys don't cry. Oh my gosh, please, 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 let's let go of that one because that is so damaging. Then we end up with men who cannot support their women, who cannot support their children in being okay with their own emotions, right? And yeah, the rise in anxiety is for so many different reasons. I think that's an underlying reason. And the social media you mentioned, the screens, there are direct correlations to screen time and the rise in anxiety in children younger and younger and younger. Remember, our babies and our children all the way through their, their whole childhood, all the way through teenage, everything. They need to be out of doors. They need to be running. They need to be playing. They need to be using their imagination and their creativity, their brains in different ways. And um, the screen time does not allow for creativity and imagination to grow. And we are, as we've said in other episodes, we are naturally creative beings. That's part of what being a human is.
And just to bring it back to growing gardens, we are all like plants. We need sunlight, we need the right atmosphere. And it's funny because I'm a millennial and, we're all about technology, but I really try to stop because I see how it's affecting us and our communication skills and just connecting with
Mm.
other people. And
Mm-hmm.
and I'm very in tune with that, and I'm so happy that I am, and I try to avoid it as much as possible. Like, I turn off my notifications on social media so I'm not constantly
Mm-hmm.
looking at my phone. I try to be very
Mm-hmm.
aware, and I
Yes.
want that for so many people. And maybe I'll become an advocate against social media or
Mm-hmm.
something, because I really feel like it's damaging us, and
Mm-hmm.
we're not connected with our earth. And you and I relate so much because we believe in this the village, back in the old times. And we've progressed in certain ways, but we've also taken a million
Mm-hmm.
steps back in other
Mm-hmm.
ways. And
Yes. Yeah, and I'd love to point people to, if you haven't yet heard it, to go back to our episode. We'll put it in the show notes, called Distracted Parenting. It's all about how screen time is actually affecting our ability to parent well, and our children's interactions with us. And for me to bring it back to the gardening metaphor here, you know, as Serena was saying, every plant has certain specific needs. Does it need more sunlight? Does it need more or less water? What time, when do we plant it? When will it bloom? When will it be ready for harvesting? Our children, of course, are each individual beings. They have their own needs. Some children might need more rambunctious play with you or by themselves. Other children may just need more quiet time. What does your child need? What does each of your children need to flourish, not just physically, but also emotionally, socially, and intellectually, like the whole being? What does your child need? So there we are, growing gardens, growing children. Some commonalities between the two.
yes.
Thanks again for listening. We love you. We hope your gardens and your children are thriving. Let us know how we can support you in any way that we might be able to.
So thanks, I'm Lisa. We got a little gardening class. We heard how children and gardens are similar, and we got a reminder to tend to our children's individual needs to help them thrive. Here are my top 3 takeaways from this week's episode. Number 1, some fun and easy plans for anyone to do with their kids or grandkids are carrots, mint, lemon balm, radishes, peas, tomatoes, and strawberries. Number 2, gardens, like our children, need the right environment to thrive. Different children have different needs, so ask yourself or them, what do you need to feel safe, secure, confident, and loved? And number 3, growing gardens with your children can teach them a lot. It's a good way that they can be entertained outdoors, helps you bond with them, and also helps them connect more with Mother Nature and their earth. Thanks for tuning in, and happy gardening to you and your families.
Thanks for being here with us in our virtual village. We'd love you to join our Facebook group at The Village Parenting Community and on Instagram at The Village Parenting Pod.
And if you enjoy our podcast, please like, subscribe, and share. Also, if you have a moment, please leave us a review. It makes a big difference for us in reaching more parents out there who may be feeling alone.
Please direct message us to connect also. We absolutely love hearing from you. And until next week, we'll be keeping it real and raw right here with you.
This podcast is sponsored by the Singing Alma's private parent coaching and workshop offerings, and also by Enlightened Designs for Crafty Mamas.